Welcome to Plot Twist.
Awesome.
Your place for quick summaries of movies with jaw-dropping twists. Let's dive in. The series begins with a strange event happening for the first time in history. 43 women around the world give birth on the same day. The odd thing is that none of them were pregnant beforehand. For instance, one woman, who wasn't pregnant, becomes pregnant as soon as she enters a swimming pool and gives birth shortly after. This phenomenon spreads quickly, grabbing the attention of newspapers and news outlets. The news reaches an elderly scientist named Harry, who believes that these children, born without fathers or pregnancies, will one day save the world. Harry decides to gather these children, compensating their parents generously to give them up. However, Harry manages to find only 7 of them. He takes the 7 children to live with him in his mansion. To make it easier to address them, Harry names them by numbers, from 1 to 7. He introduces them to Agnes, a robot he invented to take care of the children and act as their mother. Harry also has a talking chimpanzee assistant, Pogo. Harry discovers that each of the 7 children possesses a unique superpower, except for number 7, named Vanya. Believing that Vanya cannot help save the world, Harry isolates her from the group. He trains the others to discover and control their powers, giving them matching school uniforms to distinguish them from other children. He names the group the Umbrella Academy. The children grow up and, by the age of 7, are already defending the world and fighting crime, such as bank robberies. They achieve great fame, and other children their age wish to join them, even though they lack superpowers. For example, one boy approaches Harry, asking to join after witnessing the group save a bank from attackers. However, Harry angrily rejects him, embarrassing him in front of others. By the time the children turn 13, they have strong control over their abilities and are eager to learn more about themselves. Number 5, who can teleport through time, is particularly curious. He asks Harry for permission to time travel, but Harry refuses, warning that it could damage his mind. Defying Harry, number 5 travels to the future without telling anyone. However, he becomes trapped in the future and cannot return. 12 years pass. Harry is now living alone in his mansion with Pogo and Agnes after the children, except for number 1, Luther, leave him. Luther continues to carry out missions for Harry. During one mission, Luther is severely injured and on the brink of death. To save him, Harry injects him with a serum that gives him the body of a gorilla. Later, Harry sends Luther to the moon to report on its soil and rocks and to keep him away from humans, as Luther faces bullying due to his appearance. Number 3, Allison, marries a man named Patrick, with whom she has a daughter named Claire. She becomes a model and actress, using her power to control people's actions by whispering commands into their ears. However, she loses custody of her daughter after using her power on her, leading to her husband filing for divorce. Number 4, Klaus becomes a drug addict and spends most of his time in rehab. His power allows him to summon the dead, and he frequently summons his deceased brother, number 6, Ben. Ben had died during one of their missions to protect the world. His power allowed him to grow 8 tentacles, like an octopus. Number 7, Vanya becomes a violinist in an orchestra and gives private lessons at home. She suffers from lifelong marginalization, just as Harry had treated her, because everyone believes she lacks superpowers. 4 years pass, and Luther is still on the moon when he receives a message from Earth informing him of Harry's death. He returns to Earth and the siblings reunite at Harry's mansion. Though they miss each other, none of them liked Harry, their adoptive father. Luther searches Harry's office, suspecting foul play in his death. He notices that Harry's monocle is missing, which is unusual since Harry never removed it. Luther decides to investigate the missing monocle before burying Harry. Before the burial, something strange happens in the mansion's backyard. The siblings rush outside to find a blue time portal. Klaus throws a fire extinguisher into it, and it disappears. Suddenly, number 5 emerges from the portal, having been missing for 17 years. The siblings are shocked to see him still in his 13-year-old body. Number 5 explains that after defying Harry and traveling to the future, he spent 45 years jumping between timelines. Though his body remains 13, his mind is that of a 58-year-old man. After number 5 shares his story, the siblings gather in the backyard to bury Harry. Diego expresses his disdain for Harry, calling him a bad father and refusing to mourn him. This angers Luther, leading to a physical fight between them. During the fight, a statue of Ben is knocked over. Later, number 5 visits a donut shop in the city. The shopkeeper, Agnes, mistakes him for the son of a man sitting nearby. Embarrassed, the man pays for number 5's order. Soon after, a group of armed men arrives wanting to take number 5 with them to meet someone. He refuses, teleports behind them, and kills them all. Agnes hears the gunshots and calls the police. When the authorities arrive to investigate, Agnes tells them no one was in the shop. The donuts, a small child, and his father were there, and she went to get something from her office. When she came back, she found these bodies and goes to Vanya's house to wait for her to return. When she comes back, he asks her to tend to his wound and tells her that when he was in the future, he saw the entire world destroyed with no children and that the world would end in 8 days. Of course, he wants to prevent this from happening. At the donut shop, Detective Patch arrives and begins to suspect Agnes. She says that there was no one in the shop except for a small child and his father. Agnes recounts this story to the detectives who came before Patch, which makes Patch suspicious of Agnes. However, she realizes that Agnes is accusing Diego, so she arrests Diego and warns him not to interfere in her work again, or she will arrest him permanently. The next day at Harry's house, he asks Pogo if anyone has seen a jewel-encrusted box that was in Harry's office because it contained Harry's journals, and the box must be returned. We then learn that Klaus is the one who stole the box and pawned it to get money to buy drugs. Unfortunately, he cannot retrieve what was in the box because he threw it in the trash. Meanwhile, Allison is in the surveillance room, which was built by Harry when they were children. She watches footage of them as kids and notices something while watching a video from the day Harry died. She finds that Grace was in Harry's room at the time of his death, which makes Allison suspicious of her. Later, number 5 goes to an auto repair shop, where someone who was with him during the incident at the donut shop works. He finds 2 people torturing the worker, thinking he is number 5. These 2 are assassins named Cha-Cha and Hazel, and their mission is to kill number 5. At the same time, number 5 is in a medical lab that manufactures artificial eyes. He asks the doctor to provide information about an eye he found in the future, but the doctor refuses, citing confidentiality. Number 5 then asks Klaus to help him by pretending to be his father in the lab in exchange for $20, which Klaus plans to use to buy drugs. Klaus agrees and they go to the lab, but the doctor refuses to give them any information. Klaus hits number 5 on the face and breaks a glass over his head, causing him to bleed. The doctor threatens to report them to security. Reluctantly, the doctor searches his files for the name associated with the eye and finds something strange. The eye has not yet been sold or even manufactured. Disappointed, number 5 and Klaus leave the lab without gaining any useful information. Number 5 tricks Klaus and leaves without giving him the $20. Number 5 then goes to a store in the city where he used to live in the future. He has a deep affection for Dolores, treating her as if she were a real person. When he arrives, he is attacked by 2 masked individuals who want to eliminate him. However, number 5 manages to escape with Dolores. Meanwhile, Luther becomes suspicious of his brother Diego, thinking he might have killed Harry. But when he investigates, he finds Diego working at a boxing gym, cleaning floors and bathrooms to earn money for himself. This makes Luther feel sympathy for Diego. Luther goes home after Allison tells him there's something important he needs to see. At home, Luther and Allison watch a surveillance video from the day Harry died. They see Grace sitting next to Harry, not helping him, which leads them to believe she poisoned him and caused his death. They go to the kitchen to confront Grace and ask her if she knows anything about Harry's death. However, Grace remembers nothing about that day or how Harry died. They hold a family meeting to watch the video and decide what to do about Grace. In the video, Diego notices that Grace was taking something from Harry, not killing him. They decide to postpone any action until number 5 returns home. Later, at Vanya's house, she hears a knock at the door. A stranger is there, wanting to learn to play the violin. He tells her he saw her ad online and wants lessons. This man, Ronald, seems interested in Vanya and invites her to visit his woodworking shop. The next day, after her rehearsal, Vanya visits Ronald's shop. He welcomes her, invites her inside, and gives her a wooden statue he carved in her likeness. Vanya returns to Harry's house just as Hazel and Cha-Cha attack, looking for number 5. Luther and Diego manage to protect the house and save Vanya, who Hazel almost kills. However, a chandelier falls on Luther, tearing his shirt and revealing his gorilla-like body. Embarrassed, Luther quickly leaves the room. Hazel and Cha-Cha manage to kidnap Klaus. Diego takes this opportunity to check on Grace. When he finds her sitting and sewing as if nothing happened, Diego realizes she needs to be deactivated. He tells Vanya she must leave the house because she could have died or caused someone else's death, especially since she has no superpowers. Vanya decides to go to Ronald's house, as it is her only refuge. She spends the night there, and the next morning she goes to her violin rehearsal, forgetting her keys at Ronald's house. Ronald uses this opportunity to go to Vanya's house, take her medication, and throw it away. At the same time, Allison arrives at Vanya's house and sees Ronald there. She is surprised by his presence, but doesn't pay much attention. She takes the keys to return them to Vanya. Later, at the opera house, Allison meets Vanya after her rehearsal and returns her keys. She tells Vanya that Ronald was at her house and that she doesn't trust him. Vanya assures her that Ronald is a good person and that she loves him. Meanwhile, at the hotel where Hazel and Klaus are, Hazel ties up Klaus and Cha-Cha to torture them. However, they find that no form of torture affects Klaus. Instead, Klaus uses this opportunity to, on the contrary, he enjoys it. Hazel thinks of exploiting Klaus's drug addiction to torture him. He throws the drugs Klaus brings on the ground, successfully making Klaus reveal the location of number 5. Hazel hides the time-traveling suitcase in the air conditioning vent. Klaus takes advantage of their distraction by summoning the victims they had previously killed. This creates conflict between Hazel and Cha-Cha as Klaus calls forth the victims they had murdered. Hazel and Cha-Cha go to talk in the bathroom. Klaus uses their absence to try to draw anyone's attention to him. Meanwhile, Detective Patch is asking about the room Hazel and Cha-Cha are staying in, as she learned from police investigations that they are in the hotel. The hotel worker refuses to give her any information, so Patch calls Diego and leaves him a message saying she needs his help at the hotel, giving him the address. She searches the hotel corridors until she finds the room where Klaus is. She sees Klaus trying to get her attention, breaks the door, and enters the room, freeing Klaus from the chair. Hazel and Cha-Cha hear the commotion from the bathroom. They come out, and Hazel shoots Patch with their gun. Klaus escapes through the air conditioning vent, taking Hazel's suitcase with him. Klaus goes out into the street and boards the subway to get home. On the way, he tries to open the suitcase, which releases a time portal that sucks Klaus inside. Klaus is transported back to 1964, where he joins the U.S. Army in Vietnam after the suitcase drops him in a military camp. There, Klaus befriends a soldier named Dave, and they become close friends, but Dave is killed in battle. Klaus is deeply saddened by this. Returning to Vanya, we find that Ronald becomes overly attentive to her, preventing her from taking her medication, claiming she will be better without it. They train together so Vanya can perform in first-chair roles in opera as a distinguished violinist. However, for Vanya to achieve first-chair status, someone from the current first-chair musicians must disappear. The next day, Vanya's friend, who was a first-chair musician, mysteriously vanishes. Vanya takes her place and succeeds in her performance. A celebration is planned for her at the opera house. She invites her siblings to attend but finds that they are not at home, which angers her. Her frustration causes the street's electric poles to tilt forward. She has no explanation for what happened, but Ronald tells her it is due to her superpower, claiming she has a power like her siblings and needs to train to control it. Vanya doesn't focus on his words, instead taking him home. That night, they go out on a romantic date. At the end of the day, they are harassed by 3 vagrants who stand by their car and attack Ronald, knocking him to the ground. Vanya becomes enraged, releasing a sonic wave that throws the 3 men far away. She takes Ronald to the hospital, where he wakes up the next day. It is revealed that Ronald lost an eye in the incident. He wants to leave quickly, knowing the men who attacked him are dead, which would lead to a case against him. He flees with Vanya to his grandmother's house in the countryside, where they stay. There, Ronald helps Vanya train to control her powers and prepare for her opera performance. He teaches her to focus on a single sound, like the sound of water, to activate her abilities. Meanwhile, Klaus returns from his time travel journey to his original time with his family. He suddenly appears on a public bus, looking sober and alert, unlike his usual state. Klaus gets off the bus and discards the suitcase he stole from Hazel and Cha-Cha, which explodes, destroying its time-traveling capabilities. Klaus then goes to Luther's house and tells number 5 about his time travel experience, how he spent a full year in Vietnam and participated in the war. Number 5 shares that during his journey to the future, he saw the world end and humanity wiped out. In the future, he met a figure named the Handler, who is the head of the Commission. The Commission is an organization responsible for ensuring that past events occur exactly as they should to maintain the human timeline. They achieve this by sending professional assassins to various points in the past to ensure events unfold as they historically did. Number 5 used to work for the Commission as a professional assassin, traveling to different times to preserve the timeline. Eventually, he decided to escape the Commission and return to the present to attend Luther's funeral and prevent the impending apocalypse, which is just 8 days away. Number 5 comes up with an idea. He contacts Hazel and offers to return the suitcase Klaus took in exchange for leaving his siblings in Luther's house alone. He arranges a meeting with Hazel at an isolated highway far from populated areas. At the same time, Diego and Klaus are keeping an eye on Hazel and Cha-Cha to avenge Detective Patch, whom they killed. Luther and number 5 head to the meeting spot with a fake suitcase. Before meeting Hazel and Cha-Cha, Diego drives a large truck and attempts to run them over. However, they shoot at him and suddenly time freezes. Everything stops except for number 5, and the handler appears. She offers number 5 a deal to return to work for the commission in an administrative role in exchange for ensuring his family doesn't die. Number 5 agrees and travels to the future with her. At the commission, number 5 begins his job, tasked with resolving cases that previously affected humanity and sending messages to the organization's assassins to carry out their missions. Number 5 quickly excels in his role and resolves his first case efficiently. He then takes advantage of the handler's distraction to send a message to Hazel, instructing him to kill Cha-Cha, and another to Cha-Cha, instructing her to kill Hazel. At the end of the world, he finds a message written, Hazel and Cha-Cha, stating that they must protect someone named Jenkins. Number 5 learns that Jenkins is responsible for the end of the world, so he decides to travel back in time to reunite with his family and prevent Jenkins from causing the apocalypse. He successfully travels back in time, gathers his siblings again, and informs them about Jenkins, who will be the reason for the end of the world. Later, we move to the donut shop where Hazel regularly visits to get closer to Agnes, the shop owner. One day, while watching birds in the sky, Hazel asks Agnes to leave her job and travel with him to the countryside, to which she agrees. That night, Hazel receives a message from the commission ordering him to kill Cha-Cha, but he hesitates as he doesn't want to kill his partner. Simultaneously, Cha-Cha receives a message ordering her to kill Hazel. She waits until Hazel is in the bathroom, breaks the door, and shoots at him. However, Hazel escapes and ties Cha-Cha to the ground, refusing to fight her. He leaves her and goes to Agnes to prepare for their journey to the countryside. At Harry's house, Luther searches for the research Harry had sent him about the moon. When he finds it, he realizes that Harry sent him to the moon, not for research, but to keep him away from bullying. Luther feels deeply betrayed and decides to stop following orders, choosing instead to live his life. That night, he goes to a disco with Klaus to let loose. At the disco, Klaus witnesses 2 people fighting with a drunken Luther who is dancing with one of their friends. Klaus tries to defend Luther, but ends up hitting his head and passing out. Klaus's spirit enters the afterlife, where he learns from Harry that he killed himself to reunite the family. Harry emphasizes that they must unite to prevent the end of the world. The next day, Klaus gathers his siblings and reveals that Harry committed suicide, not murder. He confirms this with evidence from Harry's ghost, convincing them to unite and save the world in Harry's honor. They begin searching for Jenkins, the owner of the eye that number 5 found. They discover from police records that Jenkins is actually Ronald, Vanya's partner. Meanwhile, Vanya continues training to use her powers, feeling anxious as her big concert approaches. Allison visits Vanya to warn her about Ronald, revealing that his real name is Jenkins and that he is responsible for the apocalypse. Allison urges Vanya to leave him, but Vanya refuses, as she loves Ronald and doesn't believe Allison. When Allison tries to use her powers on Vanya, Vanya retaliates with her abilities, injuring Allison's throat with a blade. Vanya then escapes with Ronald to his family's countryside house. At the house, Ronald trains Vanya further to use her powers, intending to use her to destroy her siblings. It's revealed that Ronald is the same boy Harry rejected from the academy. After being bullied and humiliated, Jenkins vowed revenge on Harry, the academy, and everyone who ridiculed him. He started with his abusive father, whom he killed at the age of 13. He changed his name to Ronald and made it his life's mission to destroy the academy. He was also responsible for the death of Ben, number 6. Ronald manipulated Vanya after finding Harry's notes about her powers, which Harry had suppressed with medication to prevent her from using them. Ronald stole Vanya's medication so she couldn't take it, orchestrating everything after finding Harry's notebook, which Klaus had discarded while pawning items from Harry's office. When Vanya discovers Harry's notes with Ronald, she realizes Allison was right and that Ronald intended to harm her. She uses her powers to kill Ronald. At the same time, Vanya's siblings arrive at Ronald's house to rescue Allison. They manage to save her, and Grace treats her injuries, though Allison temporarily loses her ability to speak. When Allison regains consciousness, she reveals her extraordinary abilities, which her siblings had underestimated. Vanya arrives at the house to apologize, but Luther, fearing her powers, hugs her tightly until she passes out. He locks her in the basement to contain her abilities and prevent her from harming anyone. They agree and travel with him, concluding the first season. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell to get more new videos. See you next time.